What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at Data Dash, and today is August 21st of 2017. So as you all know, if you watch my channel, you probably understand by now that I always talk about the philosophy of long-term investing. It's been proven through history, no matter what market you look at, whether it be a new emerging market like cryptocurrencies or something like the stock market, that you will benefit as an average individual much more in the long term investing rather than trying to time the market through swing trading or even day trading. Now, that being said, I'm not trying to shy you away from learning about those methods, and I hope to teach you a little bit more about those if you want to learn about them. That all being realized, I think that you all know that the majority of you just want to hold for the long term. A lot of you want to take a more simple approach. I just want to, hold 5 coins that are going to help me benefit from the long run of cryptocurrencies. Nick, what are the top 5 coins to hold? What portfolio can I hold to diversify myself in a specific industry that I think will succeed in the blockchain? These questions, along with the many that I didn't even mention, are good questions, and I think you're on the right track by asking them from the start. That being said, I built 5 portfolios for you today that help you diversify into the long-term potential of cryptocurrencies, some of which give you a lot of leaders in the industry, some help you diversify a little more into some winners that I personally like, and then some are going to dive into specific industries that are going towards the blockchain and really have the potential to have a long-term run-up. Now, before we move forward into any recommendations from myself, I have to be fair and clear with you all. I am no financial advisor by law. You have to take what I say with a grain of salt and do your own research. No matter if you're going to actually go out and buy anything today in the sense of cryptocurrencies, make sure to do your research. I know I've done my research looking into these coins and tokens, but I want to make sure you feel comfortable with what you're putting your money into. I'm no stock guru either way or cryptocurrency guru, so make sure to do your research and be fair. And at the same time as well, don't feel like you're restricted to these portfolios. Change it up a little bit. Make it your own. Make sure you invest the way you want to get paid. So, that all being said, now that we've cleared the gray area in that sense, let's go ahead and talk about what makes up a great portfolio before we dive in to the portfolios that I've made for you. There's 2 main key factors, and you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand why these are important. The reason being is that in portfolios, like I said, it's something that you can move around and make your own. But these 2 key steps are what people usually miss out on that can really harm your returns in the long term. So first off, we need to have diversification. If you have all your money in one coin, unless it's Bitcoin, you're doing something wrong. Even just having all your money in Bitcoin, you're losing a lot of potential opportunity. Not to mention, what if Bitcoin, just stops getting adopted tomorrow? That wouldn't be good to have all your money in it. So diversification is key because if one of the coins or tokens that you hold go under, you'll be secure and safe in at least the scale of the majority of your investment. I can give you an example that you should keep in mind. We're kind of going through the dot-com era, or the kind of 1998 of the internet for cryptocurrencies. It was the big boom for the internet, and everyone thought that all these websites that were going onto markets were going to be the leaders. Well, is AOL still used? Is Yahoo still the big leader? Well, they were at the time, but now they're not. And we're kind of in that phase right now with cryptocurrencies. So I would keep in mind that around 80 to 90% of the cryptocurrencies that are currently in circulation, whether they're highly valued or low valued, you have to keep in mind that the majority of them either won't deliver on their promises and will most likely go down or not really move up in the long term. So we want to make sure to diversify in not only a wide range of coins, but the second point that I make about a good portfolio, which is the winners. Now, how you determine a winner, that's kind of, opinionated, but there are some things to keep in mind. You can generally tell which ones are the leaders of the market by their valuation and their value propositions. So you got to make sure to do your research on these before you put your money into them. Make sure that they've got groundbreaking technologies, good teams, things that I usually cover on my videos when I do coin analysis videos. And I'll also do a video in the future as well that will talk about how I break down and analyze a good coin. So, that being said, if you keep those 2 points in mind, you'll be sure to be on the right track towards building a much better portfolio than the majority of people who are investing in cryptocurrencies. So without further ado, let's jump into the first portfolio that I've built, which is known as the Leaders Portfolio. And as you can see, Bitcoin is on there as a shining example. And this portfolio is going to be for those who want these steady leaders, who want a slight amount of diversification, but not much diversification because you got a lot of strong leaders, ones that are stable, secure, and built for the long term. Now, this might not be an excessively high return portfolio, but it's a stable one to really help you benefit from the long adoption of cryptocurrencies. So what are the leaders in my mind? Well, some of them are already determined by market cap. We already know that Bitcoin and Ethereum, Litecoin, and Ripple are also huge names, and also NEO as well is becoming a big player. So you've got a lot of big names in this portfolio, and you can see that Bitcoin is making up 20%. As you'll see in the majority of my portfolios, I make Bitcoin 20% of the holdings. I think it's important to keep in mind that Bitcoin can sometimes lead against the altcoins as people move towards cryptocurrencies and as money circulates into this market. And Bitcoin is literally what I like to call the gold standard of cryptocurrency. You want to hold a little bit of it to back up your portfolio. So I think that it's important to have 20% in Bitcoin. We can also tell, as you all know, Ethereum's a big player. I think it's good to have about 20% of Ethereum. You know, whether something comes to try and challenge Ethereum or compete with it, there's a lot of ERC20 tokens that are backed on Ethereum, and people are adopting Ethereum's technology. So keep in mind that Ethereum is a leader, and it's here to stay for quite some time. And we've also got Ripple and Litecoin as good holdings as well. Ripple making up 15%. Whether you like Ripple or not, Ripple is going to continue to be adopted, and I think more and more companies are going to get used to using its coin on its technology, even though there's flexibility with it. I think that banks have already started adopting it and will continue to see that adoption, which gives it a lot of potential for the long term. And Litecoin as well, I've talked to you all as a favorite of mine. I think it's undervalued, and I think in the long term, it's almost going to be the silver of cryptocurrency. It's going to be that other backbone of cryptocurrency. Now, I'm not actually calling it a precious metal, but I really think that the team, Charlie Lee, and everyone at Litecoin are really delivering on their promises on Litecoin and are making it a really interesting cryptocurrency to use in the long term. I've got videos as well on all of these if you want to look into them. I've done in-depth analyses, and I've talked about Bitcoin and Ethereum multiple times throughout my market analysis. So and the last one I want to talk about is NEO. NEO is a personal favorite of mine. And if you're looking in this portfolio to see, like, I really want a candidate, Ethereum and Bitcoin have kind of gone up. I want a candidate that's going to provide a long-term return and a good return that has yet to really skyrocket. And I gotta say, I think that NEO is that candidate. And that's why I have it at 25% of your portfolio holding within this portfolio. The reason I'm so confident in it is because NEO is trying to be China's Ethereum. It's trying to be a game changer. If you want to learn a little bit more about NEO, I'm going to be doing an in-depth NEO video, but I've already done one on AntShares, its previous name, and where I talked a little bit about its optimism and did a little bit of a fundamental analysis. But I definitely want to cover NEO a little more extensively, but you'll hear me talk about it all the time in this channel. It's one of my biggest portfolio holdings, so definitely keep NEO on your radar, and keep the Leaders portfolio on your radar if you want that simple portfolio to really benefit from the long term. All right, so the second portfolio I want to talk about now is my top 10 portfolio. Now, these aren't in any specific order, and just because one might have one more holding than the other in the sense of percentage of the portfolio, doesn't mean that I like it more than the other. These are 10 coins that I'm just absolutely optimistic on, and I've also covered the vast majority of them on my channel, so you can feel safe and secure and go check out some of those before you actually put your money into it. But you can tell I'm very optimistic on these if you watch my channel because I talk about them a lot. So let's go ahead and dive into the top 10 coins in my view. So as always, the 20% holding on Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is stable. It's the gold standard for cryptocurrency, and it's a good holding to have as 1/5 of your portfolio. I've also got a long list of 10% items on the portfolio. I've got 10% in Ethereum. Can't deny it. I think Ethereum's going to be here to stay for quite some time. We've also got Ripple at 10%. It's been massively adopted by banks. We also have Litecoin, another personal favorite of mine, at 10%. We've got NEO as well at 10%. IOTA at 10%. This is one I still have yet to cover on my channel, but I will be doing a video on soon, so if you're watching this a few weeks from when it comes out, I think you can go back on my channel and probably find that IOTA video. Either way, there's tons of videos talking about it. It's a really philosophical coin, and I think it's going to be cool once artificial intelligence really comes to the forefront. And then also we've got 10x, one of my favorite payment solution ICOs that has been on the market. It has just been an absolute run up, and I think there's a good reason for it, so long as its technology continues to be adopted. And then we also have at the bottom where we start cutting down a little bit on percentage, but not putting any negativity towards them. I love Stratus because I think it serves a very nice niche in the developer sphere and for corporate enterprise to come onto the blockchain. And also I've got Safe Exchange Coin and Mysterium. Safe Exchange is trying to build a decentralized anonymous blockchain where people can interact with one another in a decentralized marketplace. And it's trying to build a platform that is not able to be shut down. So if Safe Exchange can deliver on those promises, I'm very optimistic on the long term, and I think it's good to have an 8% holding on it. And Mysterium is trying to attack the VPN market, which is very centralized and has to do with allowing you to browse the web as you please. And this is a big issue in China where people are censored by the government. I've done a video on Mysterium if you're a little more curious about the topic. However, they're trying to decentralize it and bring it to the blockchain, which I think is a very powerful concept. So definitely look into these coins if you're interested in this top 10 portfolio. It provides a nice range of diversification. And as I stated, these are coins that I'm very optimistic about. And I would feel fine holding this portfolio for the next 4 to 5 years at least without making any serious changes unless something were immediately to happen to one of these coins or tokens. But so far, their developers have been consistent. They've been delivering on their promises, and they all have relatively decent tech. So keep in mind that this is still an early stage, but that being said, these are my favorite top 10 so far. Next up, we're getting more specific into industries now, and I want to talk on the topic of crypto finance. This is a big industry, whether people want to agree with it or not. I think we're all kind of realizing that the centralized finance institutions that have been screwing us backwards for the past few years are finally coming towards the blockchain, and it's becoming much more decentralized, which I like, and I think that it could be a multi-trillion-dollar industry on the blockchain because there's a lot of benefits towards bringing, whether it be centralized or decentralized finance applications to the blockchain. So let's go ahead and look at what types of items or what cryptocurrencies I think should be invested in the sense of crypto finance. All right, so here's what we've got here. I've got a nice 7 holdings here, so you've got a nice range of diversification. Not all the way to 10, but at the same time not 5. So we have 7 here, which is a nice level of diversification, well above the 6 that I recommend holding. And we can also see, as always, we've got Bitcoin here at 20%, 1/5 of the portfolio. And then I've also got a lot of good, well-adopted projects, or ones that are kind of mid-caps that have recently seen a lot of optimism, but still have a lot of room to ride if they really deliver on their promises and get adopted on the mass scale. Those being Ripple. Ripple's already seen pretty scalable adoption, but it's still got a lot more banks to be adopted by. We've also got 10x, which I mentioned before as my optimal pay solution, but also competitors such as Metal, Omise Go, and a lot of other payment solutions such as these that really help towards bringing cryptocurrencies to brick and mortar stores and into the physical world rather than just e-commerce. The other ones I wanted to mention are Lumens and BitShares. Now, Lumens is a way to send financial transactions across the world at very minimal fees. And I think the big thing is for remittances, which is where you're sending money from one country to the other. And it's usually when you're sending income back to a third world country where your family is. I think that Lumens has a really nice target market in that because the fees are ridiculously low. And I think Lumens just generally has a well-adopted brand as well. And BitShares is a cryptocurrency along with its technology. It's a platform where people can exchange goods on the decentralized exchange that BitShares provides. So they've got a working platform, working technology, and you can actually go use it right now. So definitely interesting candidates. I think it's going to be exciting to see finance on the blockchain. And if you're interested, I recommend you go check out these players and consider building a portfolio with them. I think they're definite leaders in their industry, and there's a lot more room for finance to build on the blockchain. Next up, we have cloud storage. This is my cloud storage portfolio in the sense of bringing both decentralized applications that kind of spread out cloud storage, but just in general, storage on the blockchain. I think that it's an interesting concept. I think it's something that can work very well, and I can't wait to see the centralized giants of cloud storage realize that they're going to lose to the blockchain. The blockchain is here to stay, and it's really changing up the game for cloud storage. So what are some of the candidates that I think are winners, and who do I think is really going to lead in this industry once it takes off? Well, we're still very early on in it. However, I've got some pretty good winners here, many of which are recent ICOs. So as always, we've got the 1/5 in Bitcoin, and then also I've got NEO as well. Now, before I jump into the other candidates, you might be shocked if you've done a little bit of research into this. You might think, well, hold on, Nick, why are you putting NEO there? Well, NEO has been actually working on an application. It plans to deliver, once it truly scales to its full potential, a cloud storage service. And I think NEO, as it continues to grow, also provides a good opportunity in the cloud storage space. So definitely keep NEO on your radar, and I'll cover that a little bit more in future videos when I do a future analysis on NEO. But we've also got a lot of leaders who already have functioning technology in this space. One of those being Coin. Coin I've talked pretty optimistically on, and I think that it's still pretty much the leader in its industry right now, as much as people have talked negatively about it. I think that a lot of the other holdings in this portfolio are really actually kind of behind Coin. That being said, though, I think they're still great holdings, and it's good to diversify because there's a lot of competition in this space. We've also got Filecoin and Storage, which are recent ICOs as well, that are aiming to do generally the same concept as Coin, which is decentralizing cloud storage so that you and I on our computers can hold information for other people and get paid in that cryptocurrency. And the last one is MadeSafe Coin, which is also bringing storage onto the blockchain. So I think these are really good winners. Most of these I've covered. Actually, I'd say about half of them I've covered. I haven't covered Filecoin, Storage, or MadeSafe. However, I have done research on them. They've had relatively successful ICOs or are leading towards having successful ICOs. And people have talked relatively about using the platform and adopting these technologies. So definitely some good holdings and a good amount of diversification with 6 coins, so you're not, holding in one player. So in my opinion, a good portfolio if you believe cloud storage is going to come to the blockchain. And I think that this could be a very successful portfolio because I believe strongly in the concept of cloud storage on the blockchain. All right, last but not least, we've got the Web 2.0 portfolio. Now, this is kind of a broad definition portfolio. What does Web 2.0 mean? It's a general term that I use for kind of the evolution of the internet towards the blockchain and implementing blockchain technology to decentralize the web. A big misconception I think most people have is that the web is decentralized. That's not true whatsoever. It's very centralized. Most web hosting, most privacy law and everything related to the internet is very centralized. Your government has many censorship policies over what you can and can't do on the internet, or what you can and can't do in the sense of interaction between people. And for example, in countries like China, people can't go on certain websites, such as simple things like social media. I mean, folks, that censorship and that kind of overbearing nature that government has, along with private enterprise as well, on the sense of cost and structure on the internet, really makes it a lot less free than it should be. And I think blockchain is going to change this. So what are some of the candidates that are aiming to achieve that very goal? Well, we've got 7 nice holdings here. As always, we've got Bitcoin at 20%. I think NEO is really going to be a big candidate in this, so I think you should keep it on adding towards your portfolio. NEO's got a lot of ambitions, and I think a lot of the languages that they're putting up could really help towards developing for web platforms. We also can see that we've got some recent ICOs here that really are trying to take the cake on the decentralized Web 2.0. District OX is trying to build separate districts that allow people and communities to govern and vote on what happens in those districts, whether it be marketplaces or information platforms. I think that it's a really nice ICO. I did a video on it recently. Not to mention, I also did a video on the Pillar platform, which is aiming to build an all-in-one platform where you get all of your information and your web applications on one single screen. It's very nice. I think it's clean, it's precise, and the development team is active and skilled at what they do. And they've got really big ambitions for the project. Another ICO that I've covered, and I'm also going to be doing an interview with the lead solutions architect of Justin Tab, is the Substratum network. Substratum is one of the ICOs that I'm extremely optimistic on in the sense of decentralizing the web. They're aiming to decentralize web hosting for the long term and allow people off of our computers, much like with Coin and cloud storage, we can decentralize web hosting and host websites on our computers using the Substratum node. So really interesting concept in my mind. And then we've also got Mysterium, which is, as I've stated, aiming to decentralize the VPN market, which is very centralized right now. So I think Mysterium is a definite win in that industry, so long as their team can deliver on their tech promises. And last but not least, we've got Steam. I think Steam is going to actually continue to grow. I think it's been one that has been getting a little bit of, not flack, but kind of misguided love in the past few months. I think it's been around for quite some time, and there's been more competitors coming in the space. But with the recent launch of DTube, which has been launched on as a replacement for YouTube on the Steam blockchain, I think this is going to be a game changer, folks. I've looked at it myself, and it looks not only exactly like YouTube, but could be a very viable replacement with all the drastic censorship of YouTube. YouTube, please don't, kick off the video, but, I mean, really, there is some problems with the YouTube platform and a lot of other kind of social media platforms on the web. And I love how Steam allows you to utilize blockchain technology without even knowing you're using blockchain. So it was one of the first platforms to do it. Their founder's a pretty well-known name inside the cryptocurrency space, and I think Steam is relatively adopted as well. So that all being said, folks, what do you think? Which portfolio did you like? Is there any specific industry that you liked in particular, or one that maybe I didn't cover? Is there maybe an approach that you'd like to see in another portfolio video? I can tell you all this isn't the only video I'm going to be doing in the sense of covering portfolios, so I'd love to get some feedback in the comments below about some coins or tokens or certain industries that you might want me to cover and build maybe some more portfolios in the future. That being said, folks, I love getting comments and the feedback, so if you could, drop one before the video ends. But until then, I will see you all in the next video. Stay tuned.